Good morning, everybody. Jack Leeson with StartupTrading.com. It is 9:09 here on 8th of April, and we're going to do some technical analysis on our indexes. And as you probably know by now, if you've read the chat, Perry's going to be taking over after this, and I got a webinar that I got to do, and I'll hop on in the afternoon. But we'll go ahead and start off with, I'm going to reiterate what we ran into yesterday, in which was yesterday will be one of the more interesting days you probably ever trade. One of the biggest swings. I don't know the next time we'll see a swing as big. If you guys remember in my morning trade plan, I talked about, I think the midpoint of the day was like 8 or 9% off the overnight low, and we ended up basically hitting it on what was a fake news, as we say. And really just see the structure of that lower mid, how that really ended up being resistance and then support for the day. We did break the extension on the daily time frame. So if we go to the daily time frame, yesterday we had completed all targets. Here we had completed the extension we had come out of and completed the negative 23, completed the negative 61, basically on the low of Friday. Got below that, and then we ran into the full, this is the full halfway back long. 16,467 is the halfway back long in the NASDAQ from the 2022 pullback, which is when we pulled back 37%. So there's a lot more media coverage on this pullback than there was on that one. That one, apparently we weren't in a recession, but we were in a 37% pullback off highs in the NASDAQ. And it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if this is the actual low or not, but it is very well possibly could be the low for the week and could not be the low for the week. But that level there, we've had an extremely strong bounce, and we broke the next extension. So in my opinion, we should at least rally into the next traditional, the actual short setup, and that very well could happen today. The big news tomorrow is Trump actually going to go through with retaliatory tariffs? And there's no way to know if he is or if he isn't. But I think that is the overhang on the market for now, at least. But that full halfway back short is going to be just above yesterday's high, and that is going to be all the way up at 18,000, like 498. It looks like that says. But let's move down to that smaller time frame and take a look at things here. So in the morning, we, Sunday night, we bid off that 16,476. We open, push lower, and then an immediate and massive rip higher. 15-minute candle here, almost 600 points, followed by a 950 point candle in 15 minutes. So absolutely massive. And that extension broke, technically failing the trend, and we came back down, took a base at where we broke out of, but also where was that base right at? It was at that lower mid, which is interesting. Now, as we're going into today, it's the first day in a while we're opening above the upper mid, above the mid. We've been below the lower mid for many days here and not even gotten to the midpoint. That changed yesterday. We got to the midpoint, we came back, held the lower mid, and have been rallying since. Now, I am going to draw this full halfway back along from the overnight lows to what was that RTH high. You can see that did act as support yesterday into the close after piercing its 61, which is very common and almost happens on every major bottom I've ever seen. That first pullback does break the 61 before continuing higher. That upside target from that move is going to be 18,810, and it's going to be an important level to pay attention to. Here in the overnight session, we've continuously held above that the upper mid, the orange line here. And what I would like to see for an aggressive continuation would be that end of day low to whatever our highs end up being. And right now that does line up with that upper mid. I do think we'll probably trade that at some point here today. There's definitely still plenty of volatility in this market to get that move and maybe even a retest of the midpoint, which is the full halfway back. The full halfway back from yesterday's low to high is going to be the midpoint for now. Now, if we make a new high today, the halfway back will move up but the midpoint will not, because the midpoint is only measuring the prior day's action and not the current day's action. So keep that in mind. So those are going to be the important levels for today. Once again, above us, that next traditional is going to be 18,498. I got to pick up this phone call. This will be like a couple minutes. All right, where was I? Yeah, so that we have an upside target and a resistance above us. Volatility is going to continue to be pretty big here, I imagine, today. We're already up 500 points. But the ES is also really interesting to me. We've broken the ES's extension yesterday, as well as now here in the overnight session going into the day. But if you guys remember, yesterday we had that negative 100 of the traditional. So I'm going to go back here to this daily chart. The negative 100 completed, and we're running into. I think we may get the full halfway back short, really possibly in both of these indexes. And that could complete, but that would be like more of if this market's going to go into 2000 style, where it's a continuous bear market as opposed to like most of the V bottoms we've seen like out of COVID where we never retested. There's no way to know what's going to happen. Clearly, yesterday was a buy zone. We were exaggerated on every targets and had come into some major higher time frame support levels, and you just got to act on those and see how they play out. But if you go to, I believe, the weekly chart from here, the lows of 2022 and the ES as well, on top of that being um, a negative 100, it was also the full halfway back. So we had that double confirmation on that low. I didn't mention this yesterday, but it was a double confirmation on that low as far as it being, an uh, aggressive point of entry. Oops, to leave the wrong draw there. There we go. And the upside target of this move, don't be surprised to see it complete in the next 3 years. That upside target is 6,700. Okay, that upside target is 6,700. So absolutely massive bounces in these indexes yesterday. We'll go to a smaller time frame here now in the ES. So we came out of that low Sunday night, opened, similar action, lower, higher, come back to that lower mid, and the full halfway back long from Sunday night low to high, came back into play at the end of the day, and that is going to reach for targets up at 53.93. Something to keep in mind. Before the sell-off, the highs were not short setups. These highs last Wednesday were both of them at the overnight session after the market had closed, and the intraday high were both profit targets of longs. They were both profit targets long. So we very well could do the same thing where we're actually completing the longs before finding any major reversal. So as we go into the day, I'd love to see that end of day low to high trade again. And right now that's going to line up with, I believe that lower or upper mid, I should say. And that's right at 51, like 51.62 it looks like. And of course that changes with every new high. But I'll share these levels with you guys. Their own Perry will get on work his magic and teach you guys things that I don't know and he's an expert at, and I'm excited. I wish I was able to listen in, but I'm not going to be able to listen in, but I'll be in the afternoon. Everybody trade safe, have a great day, and